Hey, welcome to the Podcast Studio San Antonio, or San Antonio Podcasting, or Peachtree Rose Marketing, whatever you want to call it. This is actually the home of what's known as Podcast Studio SATX, or Podcast Studio San Antonio on Instagram, and it's the home of Peachtree Rose Marketing. So this is where everything typically goes down. This is our 4-person podcast studio right here off of I-10 and 410 in San Antonio, Texas, where we usually film on 4K cameras, and we use Shure SM7B mics. You probably see them throughout the room. I'm holding one. This is actually the Shure SM7DB mic, but I'm recording on the RoadCaster Pro II audio console system. So the RoadCaster is pretty sweet because it's an all-in-one encompassing up to 4 really microphones, and the one thing that I really love about it is its simplicity. While it has the capability of doing all of the cool, complex things you'd normally see in like a sound engineer studio or a recording studio, really it's so easy to use from a user experience standpoint. And with that, to be honest, we are not a podcast studio rental in San Antonio in the traditional model or sense. We actually did a lot to brand ourselves very differently for a couple of reasons. There's plenty of places where you can rent a podcast studio in San Antonio for an hourly rate. We're just not really one of them. And one of the reasons is we're a marketing agency first that's really niched into video podcasting. We use Sony Alpha 6400 cameras like the one behind me and the one that we're filming on. We've got 5 of them, 5 4K cameras in the studio right now filming. But the reason we niched into video podcasting was for purpose. It's for the purpose of actually helping our clients show up on answer engines such as ChatGPT and Gemini, as well as traditional search engines such as YouTube. And that's really the biggest benefit of video podcasting these days, is that you can use that rich content to not only build a parasocial relationship with an audience in your niche or in your industry, with your authority and what you have to say and talk about, but you can also use that type of content to show up in front of those right people who don't even know you exist yet. Now, one of the things I had to make sure that we did in our 4-person podcast studio here at VentureX San Antonio Northwest was making sure that we had some brand alignment going on. In all of the 7 really high-end, high-tech conference rooms that they have at this co-working space, they use these vibe boards, which are like a smart board on steroids, and I had to make sure that we got one in our studio as well, just to match the brand vibe, and just from a capability standpoint. So I really love the vibe boards here at VentureX because they're so dynamic. There's so much you can do with these systems. One of the things that I typically like to do, and sometimes I'll have my team in here with me as we're doing that, outside of just the video podcasting realm and what we're able to do in this studio, it makes for a great meeting space with the team. You can grab your transcript, you can throw that in AI, you can do all kinds of things. But with the smart board, with this vibe board, I love Vibe Canvas. Think of it as a way of giving a presentation, but really being able to give a high-end presentation from a tech standpoint. It's got infinite graph and chart systems where you can add in all kinds of stuff. As you can see here, we did this for one of our clients when it came to multi-purpose video podcasting content, the long-form content that we film here in San Antonio in our podcast studios that's been repurposed for social media, search engine, and answer engine optimization, and as well as those short-form clips on social media that create compelling content that draws people into the long-form content. Anyways, we've used this for a lot of presentations with our clients. I love the vibe board. In addition to that, we've got a lot of options in terms of dynamic lighting. What you've probably seen behind me, we do have some of these, bigger soft boxes, and we can go between more of the yellow soft lighting or more of the harsh white lighting. I do love these Amaran Verge lights. We do have 4 of them in this studio as well, and we've got 3 of those soft boxes. Just above us, just above you, this camera angle is actually the Amaran, I believe it's the 70D But we do use the lanterns, which right now it's on about 17%, as well as the Amaranth verges that we have in the studio. And again, all of those can kind of change between more of that soft yellow lighting as well as that more harsh white lighting. Right now it's kind of on the white lighting just to give it a little bit more of a lighter feel. But yeah, we did create the brand San Antonio Podcasting, and this particular 4-person podcast studio is where we film the San Antonio Podcasting podcast. It was important to me to start elevating the waters with other podcast studios and creating an ecosystem using sanantoniopodcasting.com that's really studio agnostic. I know we film in this studio. I know I interview a lot of local podcast shows, whether or not they're our clients, whether or not they film with Peachtree Rose Marketing at Podcast Studio SATX. It was important to me to actually start showcasing the voices in San Antonio and kind of the direction we're headed. Unfortunately, I know there's typically a scarcity mindset. There's a competitive mindset. People like to build in silos. I've always been of the abundance mindset in building together as a community. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to build San Antonio Podcasting as a brand and an ecosystem. I want to connect multiple high-end studios, whether or not they are would-be competitors, because it's my firm belief that there's a vibe for everybody. This may not be the studio for you where you want to film your podcast. This might be one of the options that are available. And that's what San Antonio Podcasting is about. It's about connecting local voices, local podcast hosts, local subject matter expert guests in any given industry, and sponsors, local sponsors, brands, businesses, as well as, everything you can think of in the video podcasting space typically. And it doesn't even have to be folks or shows that have a studio. We're looking to be a housing block for all of the voices coming out of the San Antonio area, the Central Texas region, when it comes to podcasting, and ideally video podcasting, because that's where, we're headed these days. And it is my favorite medium in terms of showing up in front of people, is using that video content, not just for the long form content, but also for the short form compelling clips. And it's really just because you can repurpose that content for anything omnichannel, whether or not it's your email marketing distribution and list, search engine, answer engine optimization, packaging platforms for long form content like YouTube, where you can take advantage of the search engine optimized titles, descriptions, hashtags, but also those compelling, thumbnails that compel the click. Anyways, long story short, this is where most of the action happens at Podcast Studio SATX, Peachtree Rose Marketing. This is our 4-person podcast studio. We use the RoadCaster Pro II audio console system. We use Shure SM7B mics. We use Sony Alpha 6400 cameras. And right now, while we're filming on high-end SD cards, and that's typically our go-to anyways, we've always got the backup using one of our newest features. And this is really for us on the back end. It does a lot for us. You can kind of see right here, we've got the YOLO Live Extreme. It's technically a live switcher. It's a 4K live switcher with isolated recordings for 4K cameras. And the thing that I love about it is it's the Department of Redundancy department. It allows us to not only get real-time monitoring of each of the 4K cameras here in the podcast studio, but it also allows us to record directly to the box in 4K, isolated recordings for each camera. And that's just in case we have a faulty SD card situation from the post-production editing and marketing and distribution realm. And again, like I said, we're not technically a podcast studio as a rental model. That's, again, what allows us to build relationships with people who do show up on Peerspace for an hourly rate, because we want to be the housing block for the post-production editing and the marketing and distribution. This is really our bread and butter. This is our wheelhouse, being able to grab that long-form content, repurpose it, and make sure that it actually performs for the right target audience. There are plenty of spaces for a rental as a model out there. Those are the relationships we love facilitating and working with, as well as traditional marketing agencies. We've deviated a little bit from the web design, the traditional search engine optimization, the direct mail, that kind of thing, and more towards really this. This is what we've niched into. This is our specialty, and it's what we're best at. Anyways, if you've got questions, visit peachtreerosemarketing.com. Send me an email, Matt, M-A-T-T, at peachtreerosemarketing.com. Again, we're right here in San Antonio, and I don't gatekeep. I love answering questions, whether or not you're in a competitive space or whether or not you've actually got an active podcast. And if you don't have a podcast and you're thinking about using video podcasting as a marketing medium for your brand, business, personality, whichever direction you're headed, I would strongly encourage you to visit sapodcast.com. There's a free assessment on there that'll more than double your chances of success in your podcasting journey. It just gives you a lot of free value add information. Anyways, that's it for this one. We'll catch you on the next one.